So Michael, thanks for joining us. Just how excited are you for this Ashes series? It seems to be one of the most anticipated series we've had in a while.
Yeah, and you can understand why. I mean, this England side are very watchable. They bring a huge amount of entertainment. I think you look back to 2023, the 2-all series, there was great drama, great test matches, a little bit of confrontation at the end of the series where I'm led to believe the teams didn't even have a beer at the closer at the Oval, which is unheard of in an Ashes series. I guess the news of Pat Cummins not playing in the first test in Perth, England being bowled out a couple of times cheaply in New Zealand, the talk of the preparation. But on November the 21st, it all comes down to the team that reacts and plays the most basic, disciplined, hard cricket that you possibly can. If you can do that over a period of time in Australia, you can win test matches. Australia generally play that style of cricket. England play a brand of cricket that's very flamboyant, risky at times, great to watch, but with the ball moving around a little bit, it's still that vulnerable area that this England batting lineup has, that if the ball moves around laterally, they're a batting lineup that, as we've seen in New Zealand, can be bowled out, and that's what Australia will try and work towards.
Is that a cause for concern, judging from the first two ODIs? I know it's a different format, different ball, different conditions, but
yeah, I mean, I've said many times, this England side are the most enjoyable team that I've kind of have watched, have been a pundit on. They bring a great amount of joy to Test match cricket. Now I want them to win. It's a series that's it's there for the taking. If they can understand that it's not about playing one way. You can't just play the aggressive way in Australia all the time. You have to go up and down in the gears. Yes, you have that mindset of wanting to be aggressive, but if you're facing Hazelwood, Stark, Pat Cummins, if he comes into the series in potentially the second or third game, Boland, Cameron Green, Bo Webster, Nathan Lyon, the bigger boundaries in Australia, you've got to be very wary that playing the aggressive game all the time. I haven't seen a team play that way and win in Australia. I've seen many teams earn the right to play that way, and from around the 30th over mark to the 80th over mark, when the ball's a bit softer, this Kookaburra ball's a different ball to an old Kookaburra ball that we used to play against. It seems to do a little bit more. And it might be that England have to play a bit attritionally for the first 20 overs to earn the right to be there when the ball's softer. The pitch is playing a lot pure, with a more pure sense. And if they can do that and earn the right, they'll score quick enough anyway. My concern is, the ball moving around, they go too hard too soon, and you lose 5 or 6 wickets very quickly, which has happened before with the England team, and it's happened just recently in New Zealand in the white ball game. White ball cricket's different. Of course, you have to go at it. You have to try and get those 300s, 325s. They're the kind of normal scores these days. But I've seen other teams do it in a different style and a different fashion. And that's the one concern I have about the England side, is that they might go a little bit too hard too soon.
There's a lot of talk about players touring Australia. Tuffers was on talkSPORT yesterday and said he got sledged by the customs man as soon as he arrived. But do you think this team and how they're perceived in Australia, it doesn't help when Harry Brooks says go harder, Ben Duckett says the more the merrier when it comes to following on targets. Do you think they'll get more sledging and more vitriol because of how they're perceived?
Oh yeah, they'll get plenty. It doesn't really matter what England side arrives in Australia. The airport workers will give the England side plenty. The taxi drivers, going to a bar, the people behind the bar serving you a drink will give you a little bit of a chirp as well. I do think the Australian public will enjoy this England side though, and that's what England have to work towards, is getting the Aussies on their side. And from my time working there and playing there, and in particular the last few years of being a pundit there, they admire teams that play the right way, and they're always very, very respectful for any opposing player, team that gets on the front foot and puts Australia under pressure. And if England can get to that standard, I think they'll get a huge amount of, dare I say it, love from the Australian public, because they like to see that style of cricket. What England can't afford to do is for the Australians to get onto that motion that we've seen in previous series, where we build it up, we give England a great chance, and then in Perth, where they have an incredible chance with Pat Cummins not playing, they get blown away. And that movie that we've seen many times in recent times will start coming back to the Australians saying we've seen this before. England arrive, they give it the big chat, they talk the game, and then suddenly in Perth they get blown away. And that's The one concern I have that they have a great chance of doing something in Perth if they play good disciplined cricket, but I've not seen a team go to Perth and completely dismantle the Australian quick bowlers. I've seen Bumrah last year dismantle the Australian batting lineup, which England could do, but they've got to be very, very wary that their batting lineup doesn't get blown away by the likes of Hazelwood and Stark in that first week.
And just take us back to your time in Australia, the '03 Ashes. You did pretty well yourself. Did you do anything differently ahead of this series? Why do you think it just worked off for you?
No, I mean, well, this England batting unit's very inexperienced for Australian conditions. I mean, they've got 100 in the top 7 in Australia, and that's Ben Stokes, the captain. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I arrived there in 2002-03, never played against the Aussies, and suddenly managed to have a decent series. Alistair Cook had played a little bit against them, and then 10 and 11 he got over 700 runs. So, you know, experience is good if it's good experience. If you've had negative experience, it can be bad. And you know, fresh in mind, fresh in thought, that's what this England side will be. The one concern I have is the preparation. I'm not an old school dinosaur that says, they should play 3 or 4 games. I'm not in that school of thought. But the game at Lilac Hill that they're playing is on a pitch that'll bounce really low. And then they'll play a week later at the Perth Stadium, which will bounce really high. And it's adjusting the lengths the bowlers need to bowl that little bit fuller, and the batters are going to have to get used to that extra bounce. And that's going to be a real challenge for this England side. This Australian team, they'll be game ready. They're playing a bit of state cricket. They've played a few one-days against India. They got blown away by India in Perth last year. I don't think they'll want that again, because they were rusty in that first test against India. They ended up winning the series, but I think they'll be game ready. But even though they don't have the captain in their team, don't rule this Australian team. I've heard so many ex-England players and pundits saying, England's great chance, England are going to win the series. They can, but they're going to have to do the disciplines really well. And one of the main disciplines that I've seen England teams, and my team included in 2002-03, myself included, dropping too many catches. And it could come down to, I think England will create chances. They've got to make sure that they take their catches. So it could come down to as much of saying whoever catches the best, and you can pretty much guarantee that Australia will catch the ball. If England can catch well, they could have a great success in this year's Ashes.
You talk about your team there, and Harmy and Fred actually did an interview together, and they said they can see a lot of similarities between this side and the side of 2005. Firstly, can you see that yourself? And secondly, describe what it's like for mere mortals like myself to win an Ashes series. What's the feeling?
Well, I'm trying to work out the similarity. I guess we had an all-rounder in Fred. We've got an all-rounder in Ben, a bowling attack.
I think he was more talking about the mindset.
Yeah, the mindset's aggressive. You know, I like it. I'm a one for getting on the front foot and being. But you've got to earn the right. You can't just do it all the time. You can't just play one way. This is England's moment. This is Ben Stokes' moment. I guess people talk about '05 because it was such a great series to play, and it was a great series to watch. We seemed to capture the nation, and the most important aspect, we seemed to grab the moment. We managed to win the series, and this England side need to win. You know, they've drawn the Ashes in 23 where they should have won. They've drawn the Indian series this summer that they should have won. They haven't won a 5-match series since 2017, and for all the talk, and you know, they will get bigged up. We're all going to say they've got a great chance. Now's the time that they've got to win. You know, sport is about winning. It's about getting to this moment where they've played this style of cricket that we've enjoyed, we've admired. But fundamentally, if it needs the England side to just take a little bit of a backward step and play a bit more attritionally to win the Ashes this time, just do it. On January the 8th, I think that's when the series finishes. Whatever it means to get to that, Ben Stokes needs to have the urn in his hand come January the 8th, and it'll take a huge amount of hard work. It'll probably take a little bit of luck. The rub of the green probably will have to go England's way in Australia, which you always need that element of fortune to go the other way. We had it in '05. You look at 2019 when England won the World Cup with you probably 3 or 4 moments in the final when the ball hit Ben Stokes' bat, the drop catch, Trent Boult on the boundary. There's all these moments that you look at in important series or World Cups, you think, that's why you won. But you earn the right to get those moments, and England have got to make sure that they earn the right to get those moments.